Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dakota Christensen here, reporting to you live from the Rebel News headquarters studio in Toronto. What a great intro. It's my first time actually seeing that intro of ours, our new Rebel Daily animated intro on screen, so that was cool. But I'm joined today by the illustrious Ian Miles Chong, all the way in Malaysia. How you doing today, Ian?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
Great to hear it. I'm doing just wonderful. So, for those of you who are not a regular with us, welcome. For those of you who are, welcome back. If you don't know the program, go through the news of the day, talk about all sorts of things that you often won't be seeing in other places. And we have the benefit here of the expertise of Ian, who has his ear to the ground on so many of these issues. He's all over Twitter. If you're not yourself, he knows what's up. So, first thing, I've just got this whole list here of so many things to discuss. First thing is big news from yesterday that we here at Rebel News are actually suing Justin Trudeau for denying us essentially government accreditation for being journalists, which I've actually launched a petition for this. We think that accreditation should exist in the first place. You shouldn't have the government deciding who and who is not accredited media. And this is not our first time hopping into the ring and fighting. We had to sue the federal government on two different occasions to get into the past two federal leaders debates for the Canadian election. And so this time, it was simply the main purpose for it was just for this tax credit, I believe, for our viewers, so that our viewers could be able to write off the subscriptions to our premium shows for tax receipt purposes in Canada, as far as just, for news, there's some government subsidy for that. And so this, accreditation would essentially just allow us to have that thing for our viewers, and down the line for other measures the Trudeau government is bringing in, such as boosting accredited media only on the internet. So if we're not on that
Facebook
list of accredited media on Facebook and the like, then we would get kind of shoved down, and other media would get bumped up. A bunch of stuff like that. So, I won't go too far into it. Ezra did his entire show on this last night, so I'd highly recommend checking that out. But make sure to go over to, I believe it's just We Are Suing Trudeau or something. I'm blanking. I'm so sorry. I'm blanking on the URL right now. But we have, it's all right there on the site. And go check out Ezra's show from last night. We posted the full thing free, I believe. So go check that out if you're interested in our lawsuit against Justin Trudeau for refusing to acknowledge us as news. So I don't know about you. In their inquiry, they had a bunch of government investigators going through all our stuff, and they said that only 1% of what we do here can be considered original news content, which I find very fascinating.
What that essentially means is that if you don't credit the websites that you get stories from, that makes it news.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of ridiculous. So that's something I want to make sure we're talking about there. Just to put that out there, make sure you go check that out. In other news here, because we see yesterday, Justin Trudeau, he unveiled his federal budget for the Liberal government there, which was really just more money, more spending across the board.
It went poorly.
Yeah. It was not great. I think it was just the same direction we've been going in terms of more spending, more printing, more deficits, but just an extra $50 million of spending and printing and deficits on top of what we were already
following
doing.
the footsteps of Joe Biden.
Yeah, exactly.
He's, following the best. Yeah.
There's more of that. And one of the big things was, a bunch more money in spending to fight climate change, because we all know that we need to pay our government to save us, and they're the only ones who can, make us do the right thing to fight climate change. And so
I think credits.
Yeah, exactly. Think about that all after increasing the climate tax and all of that. So this first headline on our list here, seeing at UBCO asks, should freedoms be restricted to preserve the planet? And so they're hosting this debate. This is the thing. Climate change versus freedoms.
It's amazing.
This panel of experts is set to debate whether we should be limiting personal freedoms for the sake of the greater good to fight climate change. It seems to me like they've already answered this question for us. And fascinatingly, the keynote speaker is going to be Michael Ignatieff, who is the predecessor to Justin Trudeau and leading the federal Liberal Party of Canada. So he's going to be spearheading this, it seems. But it's just, it's such a fun time when it's everywhere you look. It's all right, guys. I feel like, we've said this for a while. This is the next big thing. Well, at least one of the next big things after COVID is, all right, people are kind of joking.
It's
all right, climate lockdowns. But it's just one of the many things you can kind of put through that rinse, wash, rinse, repeat cycle of, all right, create a problem, present the government as the solution to the problem, give more power to the government, go through sort of thing. So climate change, guys, we need to restrict personal freedoms to save us from ourselves. That's the only way, is to give government more power over your life. Restrict personal freedoms more, because you won't make the right choices. You won't be able to innovate your way out of this. People are too stupid to solve this. Yeah.
There's a quote from Ben Franklin who said something along the lines of, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, it's just, for me, like, thinking about that, it's so, like, condescending almost. It's so paternal in terms of the idea that, the government is here and poor citizens, you're going to be making the wrong choices. You yourselves can't handle this. We don't believe in the human ability to, do the right thing, to innovate, or to sort of problem solve, create solutions to problems.
Innovations, like we used to. Once upon a time. And so now it's like, well, let's depend on the government, which is notoriously bad at money management. It's notoriously bad at coming up with any proper solution, unless it involves, I don't know, World War II. That was the last time the government made any proper proposals to solve a problem. And nowadays it's just, let's make a problem. Let's manufacture something so that we can seem like we're doing more than we actually are. I think the best governments are ones that are just not doing anything. Leave people to their own devices. Yeah. It always blows my mind that we present government as the solution to every problem when they are always the least efficient at solving the problems. And I think you make a great point there. Like, the government should only really be there to do what the markets and the people can't, right? And people like basic stuff like policing, healthcare. That's it. You don't need anything else. That's what your taxes should be going on, and defense, obviously. But beyond that, I mean, it's paternalism. It's saying we know how to live your lives better than you do. Yeah, because I think a lot of people, especially if you have a more collectivist outlook, they think of the government as, well, when we say we as a people need to do this, that just means, the government needs to do this, right? It's like, we as a people need to do this. Well, the government represents the people, so the government should be doing this. But it's like, no, like, the government is not, the one whole entity that is the people. There's so much more to society, and in terms of when you say we should be doing something, that means we ourselves should actually come together and privately make the decision to do something and create solutions to problems. And it's so much corruption as well, right? I mean, if you look at any government-sponsored project, and it's not just limited to the Canadian government, it's the U.S. government, it's the British government, every single solution involves giving certain corporations, certain people, the funds, to win those contracts, those proposals that they put up, which are obviously overinflated in terms of price, and have them come up with a solution. But as we all know, this doesn't really turn out very well. I mean, it's not a fair system. It's not a meritocracy like it ought to be. Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it just seems like a universal issue there in terms of, like, when you have the government as the solution to every problem, you just end up creating more problems, and then the government says, hey, look at me, I'll help you solve that problem too. And it's a slippery slope, which we seem to be right in the middle of across the board falling down into. So, so that's one of the things is, there are more and more people shouting that your personal freedom should be restricted in order to save us from one of the many threats being climate change. Save us from ourselves, because it's man-made climate change, right? So we caused it, so the government's got to step in and make sure people don't mess up too much. Yeah, exactly. Not as if there's any other way to go about doing this sort of thing. Just give more money to the government. Always, it's ironically, not ironically, it's, miraculously, it is what it is, right? It is the solution to every problem. If we just pay our leaders more, raise
our lives
the
will get
taxes.
better. Yeah.
Give them a pay raise. Why not?
Yeah.
Just give every member of parliament a pay raise. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, and on the topic of oil and gas and climate change, here's a headline from The Guardian. Banning European flights and car use in cities to hurt Putin, report urges. So, guys, not only can you save the planet when you drive less and fly less, but you'll be hurting Putin. So,
of course.
I mean, for me, this just testifies to the fact that we really
They're
should
running out
not.
of oil.
Yeah.
And most of the oil isn't even used by common citizens, right? It's used by transportation companies, which need to deliver the food, the goods, all the things that you need, because, hey, guess what? Your food doesn't grow in grocery stores, okay?
Yeah.
Simple as.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, like that is a point in terms of, oil and gas use, for whether we're talking about climate change, or we're talking about removing reliance on, dictators to give us our oil. Is the private citizen's actions is so small compared to the larger scale in terms of who's actually using the oil and gas. Like it's like, oh, you driving your SUV is going to make the biggest difference. Not in the slightest.
Not even a percentage of a percentage, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Exactly.
It's next to nothing.
But for me, I was just thinking about that. It's like, all right, great. I feel like this is more of a testament, rather than saying, hey, stop driving and flying. You're helping Russia. Every time you fill up your pump, you're putting another dollar in the pocket of Vladimir Putin. Like, okay, how about...
It's like World War II propaganda.
Yeah.
It's like when you don't ride share, you're riding with Hitler.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also just the thought of, all right, well, how about we figure out solutions to stop relying on foreign dictators for our oil, such as...
Not oil, right? I mean, when I say we, I mean the West or any country, really. And yet somehow every country decides it's going to import oil from the Middle East. I mean, those are dictatorships. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Does no one care about that?
And then at the same time, so we're saying, oh, like we're so reliant on Putin for our oil, and then we were talking the other week about how Biden was going and begging Saudi Arabia and Venezuela for their oil because they were cutting off oil imports from Russia and Iran. And so when the United States has its own stores of oil, and it could very well, if it just removed sort of the government gatekeepers there and all the regulation, to just start producing more oil, or how about build Keystone XL and start importing oil from Canada and help us, plug for the oil sands in Alberta. I mean, build KeystoneXL.com, sign our petition. I mean, it blows my mind that when it comes to ourselves in the West, we're like, oh, we need to put down our oil production. We need to destroy our own oil and gas production where we are.
It's a greater good. There's a sacrifice for the greater good.
Sacrifice for the greater good for the sake of climate change.
So we can hurt Putin.
Yeah. Well, for the sake of climate change, the environment, it's always the debate. It's like, if we start to build a pipeline or start to, actually generate, produce our own oil and to try and sell it to others, then we're destroying the environment. But then they just turn to people like Putin for Russian oil. And then...
So it's okay to destroy the environment in Russia, but it's not okay to destroy it elsewhere? Please. It's the same thing with palm oil, right? Locally, the European Union loves to import biofuels from Southeast Asia, where I live. And in doing so, they end up, tearing down rainforests to meet the demand of the European Union. And so they're okay with tearing down rainforests as long as it's rainforests in Asia and in South America, but not the ones in Europe. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's zero logical consistency to any of this. It's all such small circular logic, and it all flies in such narrow sort of straits here to sort of fit this overarching narrative. It just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It never ceases to amaze. But
we'll come up with something else after climate change has, stopped, just like global cooling was in the 1970s. When they fixed that, they were like, oh, CFCs, the ozone layer. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it also just blows my mind how much everyone buys into it, and they always have to fight to be an apologist for it. It's like, well, no. Here's the reason for this. That my government said this is the reason, and I trust them. And you pointing out something else, no. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you're a conspiracy theorist if you disagree. If you question it, if you ask questions, just asking questions alone is a form of conspiracy theory nowadays, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. So remember to keep asking questions, kids. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, we should.
Indeed.
Always.
And so, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. Moving down our list here. here's a headline from our friends at True North, another Canadian alternative media news site. Elementary school hosts sexuality diversity in children workshops. And so this is all because we see all sorts of stuff talking about the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, or the anti-grooming bill, as we like to call it, a little more accurate, I'd say, and all of that in terms of pushing this sexuality diversity instruction on children sort of thing. Right. And then it blows up into a whole, oh, well, you're just being transphobic, or an LGBTQ debate. But like, guys, these are children. These are children.
Yeah.
Do we need
They don't need to learn about this stuff. At all. They don't. Yeah. Like, it's one thing to teach them sex ed, like when they're 13, you teach them how babies are made. Okay. Yeah, that's it. That's all they need to learn. Everything else, this instruction on, like I saw one from a few days ago, some American school was like, when you go home, they want you to ask and these is a school of like a classroom of girls saying, ask your dad how he masturbates and ask him about erections. Wow. It's yeah. Like if I was a dad, and, my kid came to me and said that my teacher wants me to ask this, I'd have some words to the teacher. Yeah. And by words, I mean more than that. But yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it blows my mind. And the fact that it's like we have to be teaching this in our schools. We have to be teaching this to young children. Because, I mean, and this whole debate, like, there is all blowing up. Young. Yeah, it was all blowing up around grooming. Florida. But, yeah, it's about grooming. It's about children. It's about pushing, like, because a lot of people, like, if you're a fully competent, independent adult, you do what you will. The government has no business telling you what to do. You make your own decisions there. But to take that and, like, to push it onto children, the only motivation, because people are saying, oh, you're obsessed with your conspiracy theories about child grooming. Like, this is all, They're obsessively grooming children, so. Yeah, but the thing is like, okay, even if you were to say, okay, this isn't about child grooming. Say it was about, I don't know, just pushing your own, like you're having this debate of whether or not this should be a thing in society, and then you start pushing that onto children, or just saying, children need to be aware of, to be inclusive. It's like, this is instructing children in matters of sexuality and gender theory. Yep. And these are children. It's a political agenda, and it's queer theory, right? That's the exact thing that is called queer theory, and then there's critical race theory, and they're both part of critical theory. And they're pushing this in schools. And if you were to ask any of these people if they would be okay with religious instruction in schools, they would say no. Yeah. Oh, exactly. That's the thing. And this is a religion. Yeah. No, I think that's really super true. And yeah, it blows my mind. Like in terms, and just the idea of we have to be teaching this in our schools, whereas, like you were saying, the double standard is if they were to instruct religion in the schools in that same way, people will be so up in arms. And does anyone think like maybe we should just stick to things we can all actually agree on really should be taught to children in schools when you have teachers instructing them, and then you can, I don't know, maybe leave parents to teach children their own beliefs and values as to what they will. And this is exactly why they want to prevent parents from knowing about the curriculum, because the curriculum is not transparent, right? The reason parents are talking about this right now is because they're finding out what their kids are learning, and that's a problem for the schools. It's a problem for the school boards that are pushing these ideological classes, right? And so they're trying to make it so that parents don't even have a right to know what their kids are learning. And to me, that's a red flag. It's like, what are you teaching my kids that you don't want me to find out about? I mean, why are you so concerned? If, like, they love to claim that they're not teaching critical race theory, they're not teaching queer theory in schools, and yet they don't want parents to know what they're teaching. That tells me that that's exactly what they're teaching. They want parents not to know about what their kids are going through, so that they can, use their kids as a kind of template, a blank slate, if you will, to project their beliefs onto those kids and turn them into the next generation of activists. That's the whole idea. Well, and like the idea, because we keep seeing this time and time again with all of these issues of whenever there's someone sort of blowing the whistle on, oh, this is being taught in schools, is pushing onto children the idea that, all right, we're going to encourage you to explore your sexuality as a child and explore your sexual preferences as a child, but also we're going to make sure that you have a safe space, safe from your parents who are going to be bigots and tell you that, no, you shouldn't be doing this as a child. We're going to make sure to protect you. And, if you want to come to our school, I forget where I saw this, but it was saying like they had like a
a gender closet where kids could come in and change into whatever they felt better identified in in the school environment.
I saw that yesterday.
So their parents couldn't see, and then they can change back into the regular clothes and go home so that they can be themselves in school. Like,
literally encouraging kids to become transgender. You know, it's one thing if, I don't know, you're an adult and you decide that you're trans. You were born in the wrong body. You know, you're an adult. You can make that decision on your own. But when teachers are telling their kids, no, this is cool. Wear a dress. Put on some makeup. Tell me how it feels. That's grooming. That is just straight up grooming. I'm not going to mince words here. And that's why he called them groomers, right? And they're upset by that. They're like, oh, we're not grooming anyone. This is just another, a fear mongering from the far right. It's like, well, no, this is regular parents who are, expressing these fears, really.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like talking about Florida, I love to see what DeSantis is doing there with something as simple as the parental rights bill, in terms of, all right, we're going to ban the instruction of teaching critical gender theory and sexuality to children from kindergarten to grade 3. And like, that's all it is. That's the main simple pretense of the bill.
It's so basic too. I don't think it's even enough.
Yeah. It's such a basic thing. It is a basic baseline. And then to see every single Florida Democrat and every single Democrat in all the states all up in arms about this, freaking out. And it's like they've either been lied to about the fact that this is, the Don't Say Gay bill. They're banning you from saying gay. So, I mean, I imagine there are the handful in there who are genuinely just so ignorant and have only heard, oh, no, Ron DeSantis is outlawing gay people. This is terrible. He's erasing gay families. We need to fight back. He's a bigot. They just go read the bill and see what it actually is. Or
I wish,
or it just reveals, like, it's either they're so blinded by their political agenda and hatred of this Republican DeSantis, like, well, we have to take him down at all costs, so we have to generate some outrage against this bill, or there's another sort of agenda there, like.
He's pretty smart, DeSantis. He did K3. He didn't do K12. Like, he could have said, we're not going to allow this all, throughout the entire grade school system, right? We're going to ban this from, like even 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 16-years are banned from learning this. He said, no, it's just preschoolers to, people who are like grade 1. And that is nothing, right? Those are tiny kids, are babies, basically. And they're upset about that, about babies learning about this stuff that, even adults don't even know about. It's absurd. So he's really smart for picking that particular set of grades. It just shows how degenerate this group of people really are.
Yeah, because it's the most reasonable position you could take, and you're so right there. Yep. It's you just see everyone freak out about it. But like that one article I was talking about there from True North, I think it just goes to show that these chickens are coming home to roost here in Canada. It's happening. So. Just keep a vigilant eye.
It's in the UK too.
Yeah, it's in the UK. Like, it's happening everywhere, I suppose.
Everywhere in Europe, Western Europe.
Yeah,
Western Europe. It's all like this.
It's easy to see it kind of blowing up elsewhere and being like, oh well, at least my child isn't being taught this. It's like, no, you should keep your guard up.
No.
Just
even private schools. Yeah, I see some people in my replies when I talk about this stuff. They're like, put your kids in private schools. I'm like, no, find out what they're teaching. I bet it's the same thing. Homeschool your kids, or at least join the school board and actually enact change. I think that's the better solution. Join a school board, become a school board member, run for office, and change it from within. That's the only way.
Yeah,
and make sure that, hold these people accountable. Yeah. Seriously, destroy them.
Yeah, I think like on all of these issues, I just think it's so important. Like, I think that's a great point there, not to just like run away from this and be like, all right, I'm just going to homeschool my kids. That's it. I'm done. Like, I think just a general solution there, like, just is a good general advice for all this stuff, is just to get involved. And in terms of like locally, like, make sure you're there in your community, make sure you know what your kids are being taught, make sure that you're actually involved in your children's education, and you're not just passing them off to the government to be instructed, or to their friends, or to the world. Like, I just think
and for God's sakes, don't give them social media. That's where they get groomed as well, on TikTok, Instagram.
It's true.
Instagram especially, right? Instagram especially. It's like you got all these weird influencers who are telling kids that, oh, it's okay to be yourself, whatever that means.
Yeah, like, be aware, especially, you're saying the internet is a whole giant mess of things that kids can get sucked into, no matter where you are. But the thing is, and it's just now everywhere. I think, like, you can't shield your kids from this sort of thing now. Like, in the world, this sort of stuff is everywhere. You can only do your best to try and arm them against it, make sure they're aware, and help to teach. Like, that's why I think some of the strongest kids in this generation rising up are going to be the ones who are able to just like be aware that all this is happening and able to like, you know, sort of resist it, to like not buy into so many of the lies that are out there, all the confusion, because there's so much confusion, so many lies out in the world, like, you know, right is left, up is down, all of that. And I mean, yeah, I just think it's so important to...
Cats and dogs living together.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's fine.
Yeah, it's literally everywhere. Actually, you know what? The next thing up on here is talking about Disney in terms of Disney executive producer saying she wants to educate children about pockets of the LGBTQ community that you don't see, such as the asexual community. And I mean, like...
What is that?
You want to talk about that?
I didn't know asexuals had a community.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, the fact that they're trying to push this onto innocent children...
What discrimination do they even face? Yeah, right?
Yeah, you know,
like everybody wants to claim a label and that says, look at me, I'm special, I'm demisexual. What does that even mean? Oh, that you only have sex with people you date that you find romantically attractive? Like, how is that its own sexuality? It means you're a normal person who doesn't sleep around. Wow, you need a label for that? Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm not oppressed.
Everything is labels, everything is identity politics. And that's the thing. It's like when you start to like, you know, call out something like this, it's all about personal offense. Like, well, how dare you try to erase me? How dare you attack
my identity?
Silencing me.
You're
silencing me. You're oppressing me. It's like, you know what?
Like maybe I should be. Maybe I should be silencing them. Maybe we should all be silencing them and oppressing them. Wouldn't they love that?
Wouldn't they love that? Okay, to be fair, don't endorse silencing or oppressing anyone, just so I'm being clear.
And we don't have the institutional power to do so we can only dream about it.
Yeah.
We can only dream about it.
But like...
Exactly.
Yeah, the fact...
Give it time, the pendulum's going to swing back, and then, you know, they'll be like, oh, I guess I shouldn't have been such a jerk to those people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean...
I'm not saying I'll be doing it, but some other people never know.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Oh man. Well, like on the Disney front there, because I mean, like I've been helping out with on our website, getting up all of your articles you've been writing. I think I've seen like 12 different articles from you on the topic of Disney and LGBT stuff.
I got another one coming.
Over the past like, you know, week, maybe 2 weeks. And there's just been so much about this in terms of, because like, was there some, like, I'm a little fuzzy on all the details here. There's just so much of it. Like, was there like some like big leak or something about them talking about their agenda?
It's
like
the thing that tomorrow. Reimagine tomorrow. Like, that's what it's called, and it's still ongoing to my knowledge.
Yeah.
And they came out with so Christopher Rufo has been doing an amazing job chronicling all of this, and he released one yesterday where the Disney president, right, the Disney president of corporate whatever, she's basically in charge of all the characters and the properties. She said that her goal now as, you know, president is to focus LGBTQIA2S plus content on children. Essentially, she said Gen Z and millennials. Well, that means children, right? Mm-hmm. Anyone, you know, above the age of 10 is Gen Z. So yeah, it's about focusing on kids. It's about directing this kind of content to kids. And, you know, if you're a parent and you've got Disney Plus, I would, you know, honestly recommend that you terminate your service immediately. Don't give these people money. Show them that you're not interested in this. You're not interested in having your kids brainwashed by what it is they're teaching. And, you know, if you want to teach your kids about what it means to be gay, that's fine. That's something you can do as a parent. But you trust yourself to be able to be a parent. Can you really trust Disney to do this, to parent your kids? I would say no. It's a corporation, and their goal is to turn your kids into walking wallets, and they're going to try to sell things to them. So I'd say, yeah, take it off. Remove it from your channels.
Yeah, and I saw the Daily Wire, in response to this, announced they're launching their own line of children's stuff. Right? I love how they've been like...
I love it.
They've been responding to literally everything with just like some great market move, and I don't know. It's They've been so on the ball with everything. So shout out to
Jeremy's
those guys.
Razors.
Yeah, Jeremy's Razors. So good. Yeah, let's see here. Oh yeah, and you know what? Still on this topic here. Another vid. Let's throw this one of Jen Psaki talking about supporting hormone blockers and sex assignment surgery for kids, and how she wants to reprimand any states who are doing that. I believe was it you who saw sharing that clip? I think that was.
Yep, that's me. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, let's roll that clip. See our good old friend Jen Psaki, press secretary.
Last item for you before we get to your questions. Across the country, As we've talked about a bit in here, Republican elected officials are engaging in a disturbing, cynical trend of attacking vulnerable transgender kids for purely partisan political reasons. Today in Alabama, instead of focusing on critical kitchen table issues like the economy, COVID, or addressing the country's mental health crisis, Republican lawmakers are currently debating legislation that, among many things, would target trans youth with tactics that threatens to put pediatricians in prison if they provide medically necessary, life-saving health care for the kids they serve. Just like the extreme government overreach we've seen in Texas, where politicians have sent state officials into the homes of loving parents to investigate them for abuse just to harass and intimidate the LGBTQI plus community, today's vote in Alabama will only serve to harm kids. But Alabama's lawmakers and other legislators who are contemplating these discriminatory bills have been put on notice by the Department of Justice and the Department of Health and Human Services that laws and policies preventing care that healthcare professionals recommend for transgender minors may violate the Constitution and federal law. To be clear, every major medical association agrees that gender-affirming healthcare for transgender kids is a best practice and potentially life-saving. All of this begs an important question. What are these policies actually trying to solve for? LGBTQI plus people can't be erased or forced back into any closets, and kids across our nation should be allowed to be who they are without the threat that their parents or their doctor could be imprisoned simply for helping them and loving them. President Biden has committed in both words and actions to fight for all Americans and will not hesitate to hold these states accountable.
What does she mean by life-saving?
Yeah.
Trans-affirming, trans-affirming care, whatever the hell, that euphemism is. It means puberty blockers. It means hormone therapy. It means having mastectomies if you're a girl, having a castration if you're a boy. Like, they won't tell you what these life-affirming surgeries are, but that's what they are, right? They're literally chopping off your breasts of a 12-year-old girl. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the one statement that stuck out to me from that, when she was saying, like, we will not have these LGBT trans children be silenced or put back into the closet. I'm like, it seems to me almost impossible, oxymoronic, to have a trans or LGBT child, because if you're a child, like, you don't know your sexual identity yet. Like, you haven't gone through puberty. You cannot identify sexually. Like, it should not be possible. Like,
I sexually identify as a fire truck.
Yeah, like, it's like we're talking about the sexual identities here of children. It's mind-blowing to me that this is what we're discussing as, like, the center of all of this public policy debate. But like, the idea...
Meanwhile, Russia's talking about energy, and it's talking about its economy. But America's biggest concern is whether we should affirm the transgenderism of a 2-year-old because their mom said they're trans.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened to your priorities, guys? Your economy is going down the drain. I mean, have you looked at the price of the ruble? It's lower now than... I mean, well, I guess, depending on which perspective. It basically... The U.S. dollar has dipped a lot. And nobody seems to be talking about it. You look at, Biden was bragging about destroying Russia's economy, saying that we have turned the ruble into rubble. It's worth double now. Like, I think it went from 70 to or 84 to about 180 or something. It more than doubled, right? It made their economy terrible for about 2 weeks. And now it's down to 70. It's lower now than it's ever been in history. Okay, so what are you doing about that, Joe? Please. Yeah,
it's true. It's like, at one time, we're talking about how we need to be focusing, the greatest issue is focusing on trans children, which, again, this should not be a term. And then at the same time, we need to be making the greater sacrifices to help stop Russia, so stop driving your car. I mean, all of that. Yeah. But I mean, like, even back on that...
Freeze to death. We'll stop Putin.
Yeah, but I mean,
Putin's war machine. Just adopt a transgender child. It'll stop Putin's war machine.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. But like, even back on that subject, in terms of, like, this whole debate is just so insane because, again, we're talking about children
here. The West has lost its mind.
And like, yeah, like, again, if you're an adult, if you're doing your thing, like, you know what, you do you. I hope
no power to you.
I hope you're able to find peace doing whatever you feel you need to do. You know, like, I wish you genuinely all the best with all of your identity issues. You got to figure out your stuff. Do what you need to do to figure it out. You know, get some help. You know, I'm praying for you. God bless. But just do not be trying to push this onto children. Like, children are the ones who are just struggling. They're just learning about the world. They're trying to figure things out. And when you're telling them that you can be whatever you want, like, your gender is not an you know, immutable part of you. You can choose whatever gender you want to be. You can, you know,
confusing them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's I don't know. It's so rough.
Kids should not be exposed to this stuff, right? Yeah. They should not be exposed to any of this. I mean, they are not mature enough to decide for themselves if they are a vampire or a fire truck, and you're telling them that, oh, you're not really a boy or a girl, or that you're not really a girl or a boy, you know, and that if you feel unhappy, you know, getting a sex change is the way to solve it. And so, you know, kids, they don't know any better. They're told, they're lied to by adults who should honestly know better, that this is the solution to all of their problems. I mean, you know, kids experience depression, they experience loneliness, especially the past 2 years of, you know, the COVID lockdowns. Kids couldn't even have any friends to play with. Yeah. And so, of course, they're going to be going through a lot of stuff right now, a lot of changes. It's very difficult for them to, you know, go from from wearing masks all day long and not seeing facial expressions of any other kids to, you know, trying to interact socially in a world in which they're just not built for. They're stunted because of the lockdowns. And now you're telling them, you're confusing them, and you're saying, oh, you're a different gender, actually. You're born in the wrong body. I mean, no one, and this is not my opinion, this is just reality. No one is born in the wrong body. No one. Doesn't matter if you're handicapped or if you got disabilities. Yeah. You have what you have, and, you know, you try to make do. You try to improve yourself, obviously. You try to, you know, make sure that your disability doesn't hinder you in some way, right? But to say that you're born in the wrong body is telling, you know, it's like saying nature did you wrong, that it messed up by putting you in a completely different body. It's like, no, this is not reality. This is make-believe.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's like, you know what? It's almost like the Stoic principle of, like, amor fati, love of fate. Like, what has happened. You are you have the cards you've been dealt. Now it's time to figure out how to best deal with them. But yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm just looking at our list here. Let's some chats. Oh, it looks like some people have been shooting us some chats. Yeah, I think that's the move. So let's see. All right, shout out to all the people who've been sending in these chats. From Hollywog. The biggest con in Canada, where the most common complaint is it's too cold out, is going to convince socialist voters that their taxes need to go up to fight warming. I'm not even sure I wrapped my head around that whole statement there. Yeah.
It's basically it's too cold and they want to stop global warming. It's, well, you know, that's not going to help Canada. It's going to get colder.
It's fair. Okay. Yeah. I see these things. I mean, as ever, just the response to anything is just to give government more money. That solves your problems. Oh, yeah. So.
Oh, totally. You know, it doesn't matter where they put the money. You know, there's no oversight. There's no transparency. It's just, you know, just dump the money in a big hole.
Yeah. Well,
they'll take care of it.
Because remember,
do not question.
People are bad, so they can't be trusted to do what's right. So the government needs to make sure they do the right thing. But people are good, and so we can always trust the people who are in government to do the right thing, to make the people who are bad do the right thing. Yep. So don't worry about that. It's all okay. It's all good.
Don't question it.
Don't question it. It's all good. From Remy Rowe. What would the outcome be if the lawsuit with Justin Trudeau fails? Is there a backup plan for Rebel News? So I feel like this isn't an existential threat for us, even if we were to lose this lawsuit. This is literally just a government license saying, yep, you are real journalists, which they've never accepted that in the past, except for when we had to take them to court on it and we had to have a federal judge say, no, you are, there's no such thing as an actual journalism license, I guess, up until now. And no,
you have a de facto license.
Yeah, because journalism is not a government regulated industry. It shouldn't be. It's absurd to have that. Like, the idea of a free press is that it is to hold the government to account. It's the people themselves having free range to hold the government accountable.
I think Trudeau is taking notes from Zelensky in Ukraine, where it's illegal to, start your own media station. It has to be run by the government.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the biggest conflict of interest to have government and media hand in hand. It's absurd, but So like if we lose it, I'm sure we'll appeal it. That's generally what we do. We appeal pretty much all of our lawsuits if we end up losing them. But I don't know. I'm confident. We've taken them to court twice already and won both when it came to this issue of, is Rebel News real news? Are we doing journalism? Twice the federal court has already said, yes, you deserve to be there. You have every right to be there. So hopefully they'll do the same again. If not, we'll keep fighting. It's what we do. Mm-hmm. Conscience Stream. The worst thing they teach is that a feeling of self-discomfort means you are trans. They call it dysphoria.
They do.
It's true. I mean, gender dysphoria is a legitimate thing, right? Like when
it's legit. It's a thing.
It's like that. Yes, that is dysphoria, but
it's often misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of kids, especially, and I'm not talking about adults, kids. They did a study in a Swedish gender clinic where they studied actual gender dysphoria. They found that 80 or 90% of kids who were diagnosed with gender dysphoria were actually, in fact, autistic, and many of them grew out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Like, when you have gender dysphoria, they're like it's something that should be dealt with not by mutilating your body, especially as a child.
Nope.
That's what I'll say.
Like, what if my dysphoria says that I shouldn't have an arm or leg?
Yeah.
Do I chop those off? What would my affirming healthcare be like? Would they literally cut off my arm so that I feel better about myself?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, Twinks. Kids cannot even sign a legal document anymore. No cursive writing. Math now about feelings, not numbers. Canadian schools are abysmal. It's true. I mean, I feel like we've completely lost our way. Like when we have zero real moral compass now, right? In terms of
and no real education.
There's no focus. There's no priority, and so the education system.
English class used to be about teaching the classics, Shakespeare, but then, they had the whole decolonialism thing, and now it's about teaching gender studies, because of course.
Yeah,
that's English for you.
Yeah,
and they're trying to do critical math as well, thanks to Bill Gates.
True.
No, really, yeah. In what is it, Oregon? Yeah, in Oregon, he's financing something called critical math. And I mean, Yeah, I wrote about it.
I remember, we had a big thing in Ontario here, something about, I forget exact details of it. I'm blanking on it now. But there was this whole lawsuit about, math being racist. And, teachers, I forget the details, and I'm blanking on it. But something about teachers refusing to have to take this math test, teachers themselves, to be qualified to teach math.
Oh yeah, right.
This is it.
That's
Ontario Superior Court rules that a math tests are racist. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, way to be on the ball there, Mr. Producer, pulling that up.
I guess we can't learn about Pythagoras, and his theorem because he's a white man. Yeah. We'll just ignore that bit of math, that very basic, very standard bit of math. You can't learn about the Pythagorean theorem because, God forbid.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
white man's lies.
Yeah. Oh, it's that.
It's all white people saying this too. That's a funny part.
It's true. Yeah. From Twinks, Walt would turn over in his cryogenic chamber. Kids need fantasy, not amoral brainwashing of a real world. Selling my shares in Disney. I think that's fair.
Good move.
That's the thing. It's this has been encroaching into every aspect of society. It's I remember seeing a clip from who was it? It was Dennis Prager and Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro, and they're just sitting down talking about how sports now is completely been politicized and all the wokeness being in sports. Now it's it's in your children's fantasy and education. It's in all of our movies. It's you can't turn away from it, and people don't have an escape. It's children need fantasy. They need to be able to just sort of escape, and now it's that fantasy is now just turned into, said, amoral brainwashing. I think that's on point.
This is why I watch Korean shows. There's no politics in it, or at least the politics are more adult and mature and not about gender.
Yeah, or it's not even not having politics, but where it's politics are politics,
agenda,
right? There's no
stuff.
Separation of anything. Now it's it's just this ideology that's just across everything.
It's so woke. I mean, even TV shows that are long-running TV shows I don't know, The Blacklist, that comes to mind. They did a whole bunch of episodes on the gender pay gap. And what's that got to do with a spy drama? They're about spies hunting spies, and somehow the gender pay gap comes into it as a subplot. Yeah. It's terrible.
I feel you have all these super woke progressive writers who just in every single show they're doing, they have to pump, they really just have to push their political agenda in everything.
Vikings, the new one, right? The new Vikings has a historical character, like an actual figure in history, a Viking, a Thane, who was a white dude. Yeah. They replaced it with a black actress. A Viking, and she's a Viking. It's like, excuse me? I mean, I don't think Norway even has that many black people in it.
Well, you know what, Ian, I think you're going to have to just use your imagination. You're going to have to imagine that the black woman is really an old white man.
With a beard,
you got to suspend your disbelief. It's acting, right? So,
yeah, it's acting. Yeah, that's the one.
Exactly.
I hate it. They ruined my favorite show.
Oh man.
It feels like a hit. You know how like Star Wars fans get super upset when you tell them about the new trilogy. Now, I'm not a Star Wars fan, so I don't care.
Don't get me started. I am a Star Wars fan. Yeah. Episode 8 is the worst. I can go on a whole rant. People who know me know my hatred of The Last Jedi. Like Babylon Bee, I know they have a thing against Star Wars Episode 8. They always drop stuff in their articles, and I'm with them 100% on that. Episode 8 of Star Wars is the worst.
Yep.
Yeah, dude.
That's how I feel about Vikings.
Yeah.
Damn it. I mean, it's bad enough that it's historically inaccurate. Yeah, the timeline's all over the place. You know, it takes place like over a span of like 400 years, and it's just condensed it into like, I don't know, 30 years, whatever. But it's fun to watch. You know, it's some part of his estate just selling it to the highest bidder. That's what they're doing, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Oh, that's fair. Any more chats up there, or are we through them all right now? Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah. So, video here to show now. Another one of our sort of headline title things was apparently our dear overlord Klaus Schwab has dropped a new video.
Oh, great.
So let's throw to that and see what dear Schwab has to say to us, his benevolent subjects.
Praise be
to dear leader Schwab, our global leader.
I created the community of global shapers as a means, as a force to shape our common future. This engagement of the young generation never has been more important than now, where we have to face the consequences of the pandemic of COVID-19 for creating a more resilient, a more sustainable, and a more inclusive world. You are calling for the international community to safeguard vaccine equity, to respond to COVID-19 and prevent future health crises. Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated. Young people, you are rallying behind the global wealth tax to manage the alarming surge in wealth inequality. You are calling for programs that help you and young progressive voices join government and become policymakers. To limit global warming, you are demanding to halt to coal, oil and gas exploration. You are asking firms to replace any corporate board directors who is unwilling to transition to cleaner energy sources. You are championing an open internet and a 2 trillion digital access plan to bring the world online and prevent internet shutdown. And you are presenting new ways to minimize the spread of misinformation, and you want to combat dangerous extremist views in the internet. On stakeholder capitalism will be the key.
Wow. I need to get my hands on a copy of that book.
I hate this man.
Yeah.
I'll read it. But yeah, I hate this man. You notice what he does? He's like, you are asking for this. You are calling for this. You are demanding this. It's like, no, I'm not. He is.
Yeah.
He's demanding it. These people are. I don't want it. Nobody does. Nobody wants this. And this is how they brainwash people. They make it seem like it's your idea. You came up with this.
You young people, our young generation is championing this. You guys are so great. And I mean, so many of his statements there that he made, like, if not everyone is vaccinated, no one will be safe. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not how the science works.
That's not how it works.
Okay.
No, it's definitely not.
Or the global wealth tax to fight the wealth inequality. It's like, you do realize wealth isn't just, coins showered from the heavens were everywhere, and then now, all right, we got to distribute them equally. It's like, wealth is generated by the people who generate it.
Let's quit it.
So, sorry guys, that's not quite how that works. Yeah, just so much of that stuff. When
he wants to take. Yeah, he wants to take.
Yeah. wants to take it all, and you're fighting to fight and censor the misinformation, the dangerousness out there.
You are fighting for this. You want to stop extremist views from being shared on the internet because it's a threat to democracy.
Yeah. Well,
everything's a threat to democracy.
Exactly. And when I think about that, though, like the flip side of this, because like this sort of seems like the evil perversion of what's actually happening. He's sort of saying like, oh, yes, you young people are doing such a great job to fight this. When I stop and I think like, well, what actually does give me hope for humanity is all of the sort of things that haven't been able to be controlled already in terms of like the innovations in technology around the world that are helping to make things a little more decentralized and free, like cryptocurrency and the whole crypto sort of movement.
But you won't talk about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, won't talk about that.
He doesn't want that.
Yeah, exactly.
Goes against it.
Yeah, exactly.
You want centralization.
Centralization and control. And so like something like that, where it's like so many people
Global
getting
ID.
into that. Yeah. Because like there's so many things like I was thinking about this. I was having a discussion with some of my family members who, we don't all see eye to eye politically on a lot of issues, but one thing that we can all agree on is Bitcoin. We're all Bitcoin fans. We all like the idea of decentralization, and I find that it's like such a unifying rally thing for so many people of being like, you know what?
Yep.
I can get behind power to the people and more decentralization and more sort of innovation and stuff like that. And so
It drives innovation, right? The technology itself, developing it is awesome.
Exactly. And so, I don't know, I think about that. I think about so many things like that in the world where it's like there are people who are genuinely innovating and creating and focusing on things like that are actually improving the lives of people and people's prosperity and bringing people together. And that does, bring me a lot of hope and encouragement, and it's great to see. Whereas everything he's saying, it's like, oh no, our young people, you like to champion the big government who takes your money and who forces you to do what we say and to have greater control over what you see and hear and do. It's just,
if you agree with his views, then I guess it's better for them because it is creating a world that is nicer for them. It means they have all the power, and those of us, the majority of us, we don't have that power. So it's going to be in the hands of the minority, and they'll be happy, and the rest of us will have nothing. They'll have power, of course. Yeah, that's what they want. They want to take what's ours away from us. They're saying that what's yours is mine and that it all belongs to us because they didn't work for it. They just took it away from us. They're thieves. They're thieves.
Yeah, pretty much. And the thieves are coming together to try and rule over you. So that's fun. Yeah,
and nothing, and you'll be happy.
Exactly.
We live in a rental society where everything is leased and nothing is owned. Everything's a subscription service.
Yeah, and the moment you step out of line, sorry, you lose access to
exactly because you don't have any since you can't drive your own car, you have to rent a car, and if you step out of line, you can't rent a car. So you can't rent a car, you can't have a job, and it means you need to start playing nicely with the establishment, with the system.
Yeah.
Or it will unperson you. And putting people on subscription services is how they do it. I mean, they're doing it to Russia, right? They're canceling Russia. You can say what you will about a war, but they are literally canceling Russia and hurting it, trying to hurt its economy, trying to hurt its services and everything by denying them that service. It's saying, oh, you didn't play nice, so we're going to cut you off. And that is exactly the fear that everybody should have, right? We all face this kind of censorship, this kind of shutdown of unpersoning. China does it. Trudeau did it to the truck drivers.
Just about to say Canada with the whole truckers' rebellion in terms of literally anyone remotely connected to the convoy was facing so many issues in terms of just being having their bank accounts frozen or worrying about all that sort of thing, about being blacklisted. Their bank accounts are being frozen and blacklisted. And
have they been unfrozen yet?
Yeah, I think a lot of the accounts, as far as I know, are still frozen. I think, and there's a lot of ongoing litigation with some of the accounts and stuff, but
that's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. But that's one of the things. Is like, and even the bank accounts that were frozen and were unfrozen, the people holding the accounts will now have, they're going to be flagged for life and have a black mark in their file for life because,
they might not be able to travel and take a loan.
Yeah. It's like, all right, you were part of this dangerous insurrection in 2022, so sorry.
Yeah, we're going to reject your mortgage, your lease, your business loan. We're going to, cancel you.
Yeah. For political speech and action. So.
Yeah. For peacefully protesting.
Yeah. That's
how dare you?
How dare you? How dare you?
The horses of peace will run you over, Yeah, that's what they'll do. The horses of peace.
The horses of peace. Yeah, which interestingly, I saw the other day, that the RCMP, they did the internal investigation in terms of like, the police watchdog.
No one was hurt.
Yeah, ruled out no one was hurt or injured. It's like, all right. Well, you want to go check out our interview with the person who was hospitalized after getting trampled by the horse?
Candy.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was hospitalized for several days, like a whole week or something, and she was seriously injured. She got trampled. Yeah. But that's no big deal. You know, she didn't die, so it's no big deal.
Yeah, it's all good. All good.
Fine.
So, yeah.
Did it in the name of peace and democracy and liberalism. You know, why not?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If it's for Trudeau.
If Putin did it, on the other hand, if Putin did it, you know, that'd be a bad thing. But it's okay for Trudeau to do something like that. Totally fine.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, what a world we're living in, eh?
I hate it. I hate it and I love it. I enjoy it. You know, it's a challenge. It's fun to wake up every day and think, how bad is the world becoming today? You know, how badly has it progressed? You know, how much has it accelerated towards the decline, towards the collapse, towards doom? Yeah, and it's interesting to see it. And I like fighting against it because, you know, like I said, it's a challenge. I enjoy challenges, and I hope, you know, people don't get blackpilled and are like, oh, let's just give up. No, don't give up. They think like giving up. Yeah, they don't believe they're going to win. They get upset when we win something. So, yeah, we should keep fighting 100%.
Yeah.
Don't be demoralized.
Exactly. And I think the one thing, because I was saying earlier about, like, even just the example of fighting back against, like, the indoctrination of children, right? And just, like, getting involved in your communities, being involved with your children. I think that, like, same sort of thing applies to this whole issue of where we're looking at, you know, World Economic Forum stuff and, you know, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy and all of that, and sort of, you know, big government overreach. It's like, you know what, even locally, like, I feel like we spend so much time looking outwards, sort of out to the big wide world in terms of, all right, what are these big threats and dangers, when so many of them are right in your backyard. And so I think it's an important thing to focus on your local communities and to just, like,
it matters more.
Be involved, look out for your neighbor, look out for your local, you know, community, see what's actually happening around you, and actually, like, you know, get involved there. Like, don't forget what's happening right around you when you're, especially like right now in the world of social media and constant 24-hour news cycle and all of that. It's like we're, you know, so, you know, alarmed by everything coming at us where we kind of can be blind to what's right in front of us.
It's a distraction. Yeah. Right? Like, because they wanted to take people's eyes off of local issues, the issues that matter, the rising price of gas, the transgenderism in schools, rising crime in cities. They were like, oh, let's focus on Ukraine. Let's make this an issue. So, you know, like whenever anyone has a conversation about a local issue, there'll always be somebody in the reply saying there's a war happening and halfway across the world. Why aren't you talking about that instead? Like, that's how they distract you. It's to say, hey, take your eyes off the ball. Go talk about this distraction, this thing that doesn't affect you in any way whatsoever. And blame Putin on the economy, of course. You know, that's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
Don't talk about the local problems that are actually causing local crime to spike up, local gas prices and grocery prices to all go up. Let's not talk about the local issues. Let's just blame someone who lives in a different country. You know, he's to blame. He's a boogeyman.
Well, always a scapegoat.
Can't do anything about him anyway. Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah,
blame the Russians.
Of course, yeah. You know, Russians, I think, are our favorite to blame. It's always the Russians.
It's like the movies, yeah. Like, and I blame Hollywood for this because they are to blame. You know, for demonizing Russian people. They cast them as like some barbarian race of you know, subhumans or something, and it's actually disgusting. Like some of the replies I get in my mentions when people talk about Russia, they're like, oh, those people are barely even human. It's like, really? You're gonna say that about another human being? Disgusting.
Jeez. Yeah.
It's just it's always like, they're Nazis. It's like, no, they're not.
Yeah. It's like, no, not quite. No, sorry.
They killed the Nazis during World War II. They gave millions of lives to fight the Nazis, but somehow they're the Nazis. Okay, sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's always, I just find it funny. It's always the Russian collusion, or like even
textbook Russian disinformation.
Yeah, exactly. Russian. Russian disinformation, Russian election interference in Canada with the trucker, even with the trucker convoy. There was the CBC mention of like, oh well, it's Russian funds coming into these crowdfunding. It's Russians trying to cause chaos in Canada here.
What is this textbook?
Overthrow Trudeau.
Yeah. What is this textbook? They keep mentioning it as textbook Russian disinformation or textbook Russian compromat or whatever funny word they find. It's like, okay, show me the textbook. Where are you getting this from? I mean, did you just watch a Hollywood movie? Did you just watch The Bourne Identity or something that you're calling a textbook Russian something? It's always some Russian textbook. I wonder where these books are and how did the journalist manage to read it? You know, if I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I'd love to read some of those textbooks sometimes. It would be great. We'll have to start a book club if we can find them. We'll include the World Economic Forum, all the books by Klaus Schwab.
Those are actually worth reading because they're real and he's telling you how he's going to take over the world. So probably read those. Read Saul Alinsky's, his popular book about what rules for radicals. Read that book. Be smart. Read it.
What's that about? I haven't heard this.
Oh, Rules for Radicals basically tells you of the kind of tactics that you can use to convince your enemy and anybody sitting on a fence, how you can basically paint your enemy as a villain and how you can present yourself as the good guys and how you can convince people. That's the idea behind the book. And it's, I would say it works both ways. It's very useful reading. He was one of the most convincing people probably of all time. Yeah, read that book.
Interesting.
I recommend it. Highly recommend it.
I'll check it out.
It's free too.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, we're at the top of our hour here. That's our show. I think we got through most of the stuff. So, I want to make sure we hit all of our chats, see if there are any other remaining friends reaching out. Twinks. Tidy training or titty training, I don't know what that's on. Or medical process should be undertaken under the age of 21. What? I'm confused by this.
I don't know what he's trying to say, but I know that they do breast binding.
I see. So this is like trans surgery stuff.
Yeah, and it's cruel. Don't do it to kids. Don't do it to kids. Okay. And in a lot of countries, if you did that to kids, you're going to jail. But somehow in the West, it's okay to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's backward now?
Don't mutilate children. That's my general advice.
Yeah, it used to be in China. Used to mutilate the feet of young girls to make sure they couldn't walk. Right? They did foot binding, and now the West is doing breast binding for women who are confused. Yeah, that's not great. Bad development.
Twinks again. Right on, Ian. All born the way we are meant to be.
Yes.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, we are.
Twinks again, man, just coming at us with all these chats. In my mom's generation, women friends would still hold hands with each other. No one would even suggest they were lesbians. It was just normal behavior. I mean, yeah.
Even guys, right? You could, guys can be friends, and somehow when 300 came out, all these movie critics were, super woke. They're like, oh, yeah, they're secretly gay. It's
everyone's gay.
Yeah, Band of Brothers, every single soldier in that movie's gay. Yeah, okay, sure. All right.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Ian, you're not allowed to say that word. Ron DeSantis has banned it. So.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I forgot about that. Yeah. Sorry.
Twinks again. Most kids in the early grades have a same-sex crush on another kid or a teacher. Again, this is normal. It doesn't mean they are trans.
Yeah. What about tomboys? Right? Remember tomboys? That used to be a thing. Girls dressing up as boys, playing boys' sports, playing video games, acting like boys. But no one said, "Oh, you're trans. You're actually a boy." No. Yeah. Many of them grew up to be normal. Nothing wrong with being a tomboy.
Yeah.
Not all girls like to play with dolls. Okay. Doesn't mean they're trans. But now they're told they're trans. Yeah.
I find it's almost like more bigoted, the idea that if you act in this way, therefore you must fit in this box. Like, if you are a girl who likes to do boys' things, you must be a boy. You can't possibly be a girl who's just a tomboy. Like, no. If you fit in the mold, all right, time to shape up and play the part. Get in that box.
That's a gender role, right? I mean, they I remember the feminists being opposed to gender roles. They were like, gender roles are dehumanizing. They put people in a box, and I agree with those feminists. The second wave feminists. But this group of feminists, this fourth wave or whatever, this new generation of intersectional feminists, they are literally taking the movement back by 100 years. That's what they're doing. Yeah. They're saying, if you're a girl, you can't be doing these things. You're a boy. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's like taking rights away from people, taking people's identity away from people. And the thing I despise the most about, people who claim to be women is that they say they have the lived experiences of women, that they're identical to women. No, you don't know what it's like growing up as a girl. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Stop it.
That's true. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying they don't have experiences. They have an experience of being trans. Why is that not good enough? Why do you have to appropriate someone else's experience? Why do you have to cosplay as them? Seriously.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Ian. I just think you're a TERF, and you can go join J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, more power to her. J.K. Rowling, Vladimir Putin, Jordan Peterson, all in the same basket now, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right up there with Hitler.
Yeah. Actually, they like Hitler now because, Nazis are cool again, remember?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yep.
Frisera. Well, on a cruise, we had a great group. We were discussing homosexuality. In our group were 3 gay people. One of the gays was a divorced father. And when asked, did you know you were gay before you were married and had children? Did you not think of the hurt you brought to them? No answer. Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A lot to unpack in there.
People are selfish.
Yeah.
People are selfish. They don't think about their families. They don't think about, the people whose decisions impact, right? Their decisions impact. Instead, it's all about, being egocentric and being narcissistic and just saying, oh, I want to be happy. What about other people that depend on you, the people that you should be responsible for as a man or even as a woman, right? What about them? This is the kind of thing that you see from people who cheat on their spouses. They're like, well, I want to be happy. Well, what about the other person? What about the family you just wrecked?
Yeah. It's true. It's like there's a reason one would make commitments to have children.
Keep them. You got to keep them.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, you made a commitment. Keep it. Don't break your promises.
Yeah. Generally good advice, I'd say.
And maybe it's hard. Maybe you'll be miserable, but so what?
Well,
put up with it.
Klaus Schwab will make you happy because you'll own it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's the solution to depression and the lack of happiness that everybody's going to experience in about 10 years. Well,
yeah, it's just more power to your overlords.
Yep.
Another chat there that I saw flash up. Yeah, there we are. Twink's back at it again. What happened to the gentleman who was trampled? That is an excellent question.
I don't think we ever identified him, did we?
Yeah, I'm not sure we ever did. I think it might have been like we tried to find him, and then I think he just didn't want to be in the public light. Like, I think he was okay. But
he wasn't too injured.
Yeah, he wasn't too injured, but yeah, it just was the sort of thing where I don't think he wanted to be identified. So
yeah, understandable, given that they've come after peaceful protesters, dox them, ask their families questions like, "How do you feel about your brother, your sister being a member of this little insurrection?"
Yeah,
like I don't think anyone wants to deal with that, so I don't blame him.
It's true. Yeah, I don't blame him at all. And is that it as far as chats? No, of course it's not. Soaring Eagle. If you two are mentors to high school students who want to be journalists, I'd feel much better about the future of news. Well, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I might red pill them too much, but thank you.
a little too much, yeah. I might be a little on the extreme side there, but
yeah, I'm hard right. That's the term for me. Not far right, hard right. Yeah, hard right.
Yeah, I mean it's true. You get all these kids going off to super woke leftist schools, and then they're getting trained up in activism, leftist activism rather than journalism.
Basically. Yeah, J School's all about activism nowadays. They train kids to literally become activists. They're like, well, you're useless as a journalist unless you learn to be woke.
Yeah.
And you teach people to be woke.
And
because who cares about the truth?
Yeah.
You want to promote a better world. Don't you love the planet?
Yeah. And like here at Rebel News, we don't pretend to be unbiased in the slightest. Like we are very clear about our bias. Like we ourselves.
But we source our stuff.
Yeah.
We're accurate.
We source our stuff.
Objective.
We're accurate. We try to be objective on as much as we can. But like we are absolutely activists on so many things. We have an action page on our website. We launch campaigns. We advocate for things we believe in. But we're open about our bias. We we admit our biases rather than pretend to be benevolent, objective journalists who have no stake in any game, and then go off and
it's all hands off of them, and then they pretend to be 100% objective and talk about how the virtues of journalism. Oh, please, they're worse than anybody else. They're the lying press.
Yeah. Well, that is our show. Actually, on that note, one thing here. I've got a promise to our chief reporter, Sheila Gunn-Reid, that I would help to promote our Rebel News store, which I've been failing to on these live streams. So remember, let's leave you. Ian's wearing a great hat there. We have so much merch you can get. Make sure to head on over to rebelnewsstore.com. Check out all of our merch. We got so many designs, so many products, so much stuff.
Good quality stuff. Yeah, it's good quality.
Go ahead and check that out, all that out there. We got trucker merch. We've got different lines of Rebel branded stuff like the hat Ian was wearing. We got so many designs. Go check it out. And if you like a discount, go ahead and use code DAX10. That's DAX10 for 10% off your entire order. So go check that out. If you'd like to support what we're doing here, show off that Rebel spirit. But otherwise, I think that's our show for today. Thanks, Ian. It's been a pleasure. And
absolutely, as always.
As always, we are streaming every single weekday at noon, from noon till 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So we will catch you next time on Monday. And until then, keep fighting for freedom. Keep enjoying the freedom you have. Love your neighbor. Do good. Fight for freedom. I don't know, any words of wisdom? Final parting words of wisdom from you, Ian?
Follow me on Telegram. It's listed on
go
my,
follow
my Twitter
Ian
profile.
Miles Chong out there on the social media world. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Peace out, everyone.
Thanks, Jen. How can you guys say that President Biden was not a close contact with Speaker Pelosi when there is video of the speaker kissing him?
Well, Peter, the way that it is defined is by the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, and their definition of it is 15 minutes of contact within a set period of time and within 6 feet. It did not meet that bar. It does not mean that that no one will get COVID around the world who does not have a close contact. It just means we are defining for all of you whether the president and their interaction met the definition of the CDC of a close contact.
Half the cabinet was there on Tuesday. At least 2 additional cabinet members, Raimondo and Garland, already have COVID. Is there a threat that this is going to be a national security problem if the cabinet comes to the White House and starts getting infected with COVID?
Well, I don't think, Peter, we can assess where they got COVID or where they acquired COVID or whatever the right way to say that is. I don't know that it was Tuesday. There are other events, obviously, that have happened over the course of the last week as well. They are all boosted. They are all, many of them are able to work from home, as many staff and even reporters are, who are vaccinated and boosted. And they all have a talented and experienced team who is stepping into their shoes where needed in the office.